As you learned in the last lesson, the image tag is an inline element, which means that it flows in line with the text in a paragraph. Sometimes, however, you don't really want to use an image that way. You'd rather have it be off to the side of the paragraph, perhaps with the text floating around it. Open your examples folder and open the images folder within there. And let's take a look at the imagefloat.html file in your text editor. And go ahead and load it up in your browser at the same time. That's the image. That's me with my good friend Jezebel, Gibson L6S guitar that I bought in a pawn shop for $200. And this is the image tag here. You'll notice it is within the paragraph where it belongs. And it's the first item in the paragraph, and it has this align attribute over here. Just like before, it's got the source, the width and height, it's got title, it's got alt. It also has this align attribute that you haven't seen before. Align equals right. What that does is it makes the image float off to the right, and then all the text after the image tag in the paragraph, all the text starts lined up with the top of the image and floats to the left of the image. If you change the image to align equals left, if you change the image to align equals left and reload, now the image actually looks better off to the left because the subject is facing inside the page instead of outside of the page. And it floats to the left and the text wraps around to the right. If the text were longer, easily accomplish that. And it actually wraps around the image, leaving the image there, kind of like an article in a newspaper or a magazine you would expect to see. You notice, however, that the text is a little bit close to the image, isn't it? That gutter there next to the image, between the image and the text, that can be adjusted with the H space attribute. Let's just add an attribute here called H space equals, say, 10, and that's in pixels. Go ahead and reload. Now you see that the image actually moved over to the right. It gave 5 pixels on each side of the image for the horizontal space around the image. But that gives it a little bit more gutter space, and that actually works nicely. You can also adjust the vertical gutter with V space. And let's just take this text and extend it again. You can adjust this V space and give it a good berth there so that you can see the effect of it. Reload, take a look at that. Notice that it gave it an extra 25 pixels above and below. This is not always what you want, and so sometimes it's better to use tables to create your gutter space. But this works if it's used in moderation, and it has the desired effect. You can also add a border to the image, and that's done with the border tag. You say border equals 1, and reload the image. There you get a nice border, the color of your text, whatever the color of your text is, comes up. And that makes it 1 pixel, which is kind of nice. Sometimes for design purposes, you might want to make it bigger, and here's what it looks like with 5 pixels. Quite a large border. And that's most often used when you use the image as a link. The border will come up the link color, and it'll even change the visited link color after you've clicked on it. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. Put an anchor tag around this. href equals my music site, where you can hear me playing that guitar. And then reload, and now you see the border is the link color, and that makes it stand out as a link. If you click on that, it brings up the web page there, which is too big, of course, for this screen. There it is. And use the back arrow on the keyboard, and now it's in the visited link color. A lot of times, though, you want to use an image as a link, but you don't want the border around it. Then you must explicitly set the border to 0, because many browsers will put a border around the image when it's used as a link if you don't specifically say to make the border 0. So we'll make the border 0 here and reload. And now the image is a link, and you don't know until you put your mouse over it, and you might want to make the title text say something like, this is a link to my website. And of course, when it's a link, you can do the other things that you can do with a link, like setting the target to blank or whatever. An image works just as text because it is an inline tag, so it can work in a link the same way that text would. Now we see how the text can wrap around the image, but because the image is an inline tag, and I'm going to go ahead and just remove the link from here because it's kind of cluttering up the typing space there. Because the image is an inline tag, if you use the BR tag to break a line, remember you can use BR to create a break within a paragraph. If you use the BR to create a break in the text here, the text will still be off to the side of the image. But maybe you want that text to come down around the image and start on the next line after the image, and yet you don't really want to create another paragraph. The way to do that is with the clear attribute of the BR tag. You say clear equals left, and that will tell it to clear any floating objects on the left-hand side. Let's reload. And there, that text now breaks around the image. And if you had a V-space gutter margin, it would be below that. On the other hand, if the image is floating to the right, because you told the BR to only break on the left, it won't break around the image if the image is to the right. So you can say clear equals right. That will clear the text around an image to the right. On the other hand, if you want it to work either way, you can say clear equals all, and that'll work with the image on the right, or it'll work with the image on the left. That's how you control, really, most aspects of text wrapping around an image.